Hello and welcome to the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Please note that the views and opinions expressed here today are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or Archer Daniels Midland. Today's panelists are Alan Bush, our senior financial economist, Mark Bowman, our global markets specialist, and Mark Soderberg, our senior ag market specialist. Starting with the ags today, Mark Soderberg, with all the uncertainty surrounding Russian wheat trade, how do you think this is going to play out?
Yeah, I think last Friday's trade in the wheat market will prove to be an overreaction to news that Russia has been in direct negotiations with a dozen or so other nations to supply them with wheat, effectively just trying to eliminate other countries from participating in international tenders. To me, it would be much more of a bearish feature if Russia was sitting on a huge pile of wheat, but all indications are that they're not, and supplies are tightening. Yes, they're still going to be the global leader in terms of exports. USDA has them pegged at 48 million metric tons for the 24-25 marketing year, but that's down just well below the 55.5 million they exported last year, and their stocks are expected to fall to just over 7 million metric tons, and that's down from 11.7 last year and about half of what they were in the 22-23 marketing year. And on a stocks to use ratio, it's the tightest in about 15 years. So earlier this month, Russia's Ag Ministry, they met with their country's largest exporting firms, basically to outline a plan to raise the floor price of their wheat exports to $250 a metric ton, in an apparent effort, I think, to tap the brakes on what was an aggressive pace to sales to date so far. But we're really kind of getting some mixed signals here. But there's really no debate the fact that their production this year is well below a year ago, as drought did ravage some of these key growing areas. So I think it will create an opportunity for the U.S. and the global export market. So I think last Friday's sell-off is going to prove to be a buying opportunity in wheat.
Mark, can you give us an update on South America weather?
Sure.
Yeah, we're starting to see rains fill in rather nicely across some of the key growing regions of central and northern Brazil after months of dryness now. And forecasts moving forward are also favorable for both Brazil and Argentina, with on and off rains really into the early part of November. That said, however, these monsoonal rains have been a little bit late developing, about 2 to 2.5 weeks late, and it has created some planting delays in soybeans. Brazilian farmers, as of late last week, had planted 18% of their intended soybean acres. They did advance 10% for the wheat, but they're still left well behind the 5-year average of 30%. So now farmers there will be working as quickly as they can around the raindrops to get caught up. Corn plantings in Argentina, they've reached 24% as of late last week. That's a bit below their 5-year average. First crop corn plantings in Brazil, they're at 48%. That's actually a touch above the 5-year average. So the delays in soybean plantings, I don't think will have a big impact on yields here. However, could throw back the second corn crop plantings, which do account for 75% of their production, as they are planted after the soybean harvest in late January into early February. So I think it could have more of an impact on corn yields and production if that pollination is pushed back into their dry season next spring.
Thank you. Let's continue with the weather and moving over to Mark Bowman. What do the rains in Brazil mean for coffee and sugar?
Well, both. First of all, since Mark mentioned, a lot of the rains, though, were forecast in northern Sao Paulo and the southern Minas Gerais over the weekend. Minas Gerais being the main coffee producing state, and Sao Paulo covering a good portion of the sugar area, which is center South Brazil. Those areas saw 18 or 54 millimeters over the weekend, with some months which is 105 millimeters. And this really kind of starts the decent rain that has been needed so long for both coffee and sugar crops, especially. Coffee is moved into the flowering and now into the bud and our cherry setting phase, and And the initial rains induced the flowering and pollination, and they're going to need more for mature development. Likewise, sugar is a point where the cane crops, which really were damaged most recently by the fires that they saw earlier this fall down there, they need to get rejuvenated. Both crops severely damaged by the extensive heat and drought earlier this year. For sugar, did see stronger production early in the season, but the lack of rain